essentially like a list of nations, or maybe just the starting nation and the surrounding ones, and have just a general sense of even a few keywords of what are these nations like and kind of what are they up to, so that if the players
Yeah.
were to go to the capital of the country they're in, or were to cross the border, that you have at least something to go off of. But you don't have to know all the specifics, um,
Right.
until it becomes pertinent, or until it's going to be pertinent maybe in a session or two.
Unless you have those players that want to know all the names of each and every one of those domains, who the ruling families are, what their
Well,
names are.
even then, you'd only really know like the ruler. So, like, take
Yeah.
medieval France. You'd probably know the name of the king and the queen, maybe their kids, and you'd probably know the names of the dukes, right?
Yeah.
Or counts. But you probably wouldn't know the name of literally every noble family. And
Right.
often you
Right.
wouldn't know who's the current head because of the delay of information before it reaches you. Somebody could have died, and their heir could have taken over, and that kind of thing. Hey, Jason.
Reports of my demise have been greatly exaggerated.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Unfortunately, I brought an extra screen for my computer, and it's broken, so I can't actually see if anybody's on my YouTube stream. I can't actually see them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, which sucks, but we are live now?
We're live. Yep.
Where's Matt?
We're live. We went live. Matt's demise, as Dan says, may be confirmed. I don't know.
Aha.
We'll see.
We'll find out. I sent him a text also.
I apologize for being late. I was actually down trying to set up my booth, and I completely forgot that I'm an hour behind in Wisconsin right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the thought. I thought of that. Yeah.
We kind of figured.
But that's okay. That's okay. We're almost all here. We can almost form Voltron, I guess. I don't know. Is that the I don't know. Is that, do people still understand that joke?
Yeah.
So
Dan
okay, well Dan.
Okay, well,
Dan
folks,
is on your
if
channel.
if
so
you're on my channel, I won't be able to type in chat. I mean, I'll still see you guys because your comments are coming up here, but I won't be able to type to you in chat. That's all, because I can't see YouTube.
Oh, so Dan is also going to EggCon tomorrow. So
I am at EggCon. See, look, I got my fancy shirt.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Fantastic.
And I'm
I am free.
Computer's
just
looking
FYI.
up at me because I'm sitting on a sleeper sofa in my hotel room right now.
Dan likes to how to say this in a nice way. Dan likes to try and get on to as many, like jump on impromptu to as many streams as he can. But Dan, here's the thing though. This isn't my stream. I know it looks like my stream because it's on my channel, but it's really the Todd, Jason, and Matt stream. I'm just the special guest for last week.
It's our stream. That's why it's called DMs and Designers.
Yes. Yes. Oh, by the way, I know it's probably out of the way for you guys, but in the event you wanted to, I have invited a few guys to come over and game for a weekend in September. If you would like me to send you an invite, I will. But it is in Michigan. And I think Dan's hopefully going to make it, which is why I brought it up. But if either of you want an invite, happy to send it to you as well.
Yeah, I will not be able to get there. I would love to. Yeah.
I'm planning on being. That's in September.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something going on at some point in September. I'll have to look. I think. I don't know. There's a couple other conventions that I'm planning on going to, but I don't know if they're. I think they're October, November, but I'll have to see. It's a hike. I think that's like it's probably 12 hours for me or something, depending on where.
Probably 11, maybe. I think for what Nate and I drove, but yeah, in there.
Okay, all right, 11. That's a number.
Still a ways. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a ways. That's not like an easy weekend trip, you know.
Yeah. So if you do want to invite, though, let me know. Now, what we were just discussing as you got here, Jason, was we'd just gone over kind of the minimum requirements to be a game master, which is, following rules, making like fair judgments, being consistent with them, that kind of thing. And then we were talking about how often, almost always, that game masters are also creating content for the game that they're playing, it is fairly rare to run into a game master who only uses modules.
True. I mean, most of them, if nothing else, they tweak or modify the modules that they're running.
Yeah.
And something on that, and this has kind of come up a little bit, but in other discussions I've had, but I think the module production seems to have gone down. At least official module production seems to have gone down like a lot. And I get why, like, why companies like WotC and stuff have gone with bigger things. Obviously, there's more profit to be made, and bigger hardcovers than there is small
modules
stuff.
Are seriously diminishing returns. They cost a lot to produce comparatively, and only GMs buy them. So.
You're right. No, I get it. So player materials are definitely better, because then you sell 5 or 6 of them per game group. Yeah, absolutely. I understand that. But I think like it, as opposed to what it was years ago, like I remember having a campaign, where I was just able to kind of wing it, because I had another campaign going on that I was writing stuff for, and building. It's all homebrew stuff, and so I was able to run another campaign and just pull modules off the shelf, and and just string them together, with kind of very little effort, because a good module writer won't pigeonhole their module in a specific spot, or really, so you could just easily go on to the next thing with it.
Right.
That was actually something I liked about the book Weapons of Legacy for D&D 3.5. It's not the core mechanics. There was some player stuff for getting a magic weapon that would get more powerful as you got more powerful, which was kind of a cool idea. Their execution was okay. But as a game master, it had like 50 pre-generated encounters with maps that had obvious tie-ins to further adventure. It made for a very easy thing to insert in a campaign I was already running, with very little prep time. And I did like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, Dan, we'll talk about that. That's not going to happen. That's not happening. We ask me about that later. Bad experience several years ago. Didn't work out. It was an 11-hour. I was 11 hours at the border.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun time. But yeah, now, like with modules declining and stuff, it makes it, I think, more difficult, especially like, I know that you guys have great games, right? And I don't mean to go to like 5.5 and go to WotC, because I think that they're by any means better or anything like that. Believe me. I mean, I don't play that, right? But I think a lot of people go to that because, they want to play quote unquote Dungeons and Dragons. And that's what, they go to the store to look for Dungeons and Dragons, and they go to Barnes and Noble, or they go to Game Store, and that's what's there. Right. And so they get that stuff. And so I think like that's part of the game master kind of crisis or whatever that we're having now, is because of that, because you go and you look and it costs like, the game master has got to buy the 3 books, which is going to cost $300, right? Or $200, right? For 3 books. Plus they got to buy dice. Everybody else has got to have a $60 book. Plus now they also got to buy another $60 book that's a campaign setting. Yeah. And they got 4, hardcover books that the GM basically has to study, read all of it, read all the rules, and then teach 5 or 6 other people, how to play the game, help them build their characters, and reiterate the story as it is in the book in a timely manner, and remember all the maps and try and remember stats and like run all this stuff. And I think it's like, because of that, they're like, nowadays there seems to be a lot more pressure put on, GMs. Yeah. Now, I mean, obviously I go back to, more, OSR like games, games like, the 3 of you guys make. But I think that's like a problem where people don't want a GM because they think there's this whole, complicated thing ahead of them.
I would actually argue, though, and I think this is kind of a problem, that for a lot of the newer gamers, the younger gamers, it's gone the exact opposite way. there's this movement among gamers
I had the
that
time
thinks
wrong
the
for me.
GM should. Oh, no worries. There's this. Hi, Matt.
Little worry.
There's this thing about new gamers where they think that the GM's job should be to do nothing but sit there and adjudicate rules while the players just do whatever they want.
I've never heard that
and
before.
We talked about this last week. Sure, that's where everybody jumps to railroading.
Right.
The idea of railroading. If the GM has any idea for a story or plot whatsoever, they're immediately railroading their players. And quite frankly, that's bullshit. This idea that the GM's job is to just be a referee and just do whatever they want, and that's where the whole story should from. It's just, I don't know.
Wait, so you're saying the GM's job isn't to serve at the behest of the players and just do everything that they want?
Absolutely, sure, to a point, yes. Because everybody has to have fun at the table. I mean, the GM's job is to make sure that everybody, including them, has a good time. So, and that's another thing. Like, there's a lot of people out there that think that the GM's job should be just, again, like you said, to serve at the behest of the person. The players are the ones that have to have a good time. And the GM's allowed to have a good time too. Like, it's a game. We're all playing, right? So
I'm gonna disagree with a little part of that, and I'm sure that I will get a lot of shit from it from you guys and the chat. So
get the poop to fling.
Kick me out. Kick me out if you got her. But I don't think, and I'll kind of, I don't think it's the GM's responsibility to make sure that everyone has a good time. Now I think that it's the responsibility of the GM to set up an environment in a game that everybody's kind of willing to play and like all of that. But like there's certain things there, right? Like if everybody agrees to play a space horror game, right? And then somebody doesn't have a good time with it because maybe they do things that they shouldn't or whatever, or bad dice rolls and it causes their character to get killed and they don't have a good time because of it. Like that's not necessarily the GM's fault. I mean, there has to be some responsibility, on the players for that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not entirely incumbent on the GM. Everybody has a responsibility to make sure everybody else has a good time. It's a shared responsibility among all the players. But the point I was making was that there's this idea that the GM, to an extent, and I'm being a little hyperbolic here, but to an extent, the GM doesn't matter. All the GM is there for is to adjudicate rules while the players play the game.
Yeah.
And I'm not on board with that.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. Yeah. Yes. No, you're absolutely right. The GM has to have some say in the game and get something.
He's playing a game too, and is representing the role of the monsters and the NPCs who, depending on the nature of the game, will typically have their own agendas and the things that they're up to that are may or may not be relevant to the players, but would be happening in the world. Unless you're playing a very contained game like an Alien RPG or something.
Unless they're a paid GM, in which case they're getting a paycheck for doing exactly what the players say.
That's a whole
ignore that for a second.
In that case, their fun doesn't matter.
That's a whole different issue. The idea of paid GMs.
But Matt mentioned having a soapbox, so proceed.
Oh, yeah, Matt, okay. You're here. So, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you came in.
Oh, yeah. Guys, I had the wrong time on my phone. I've been sitting in this room going, hey, it's almost time. All right, I got everything set up. I was like, my books are all straight, okay. And then I was like, why does it say 7 o'clock? Oh, so here I am. But completely ignored all of your messages and everything. That's just how it is. But no, I'm here now, and I did bring. I don't have a soapbox, but I'll stand on my dice tray. So I told Kieran earlier that I was probably gonna piss everybody off with my answer because I'm one of those filthy fence sitters when it comes to this topic. Because like I definitely I don't like predetermination in my games as far as, and I don't think any of us here really like the, oh, well, I need them to go there, so I'm going to force them to go there kind of play. But as far as the responsibility of what sort of narrative elements they're adding, I think it is sort of the GM's responsibility, especially if that's the kind of game he's running, where it's like Dungeons and Dragons. Is I'm going to have narrative elements built into the world, as in, like, okay, if I'm going to say that there's a tower over there, it's kind of my responsibility to do a little bit of due diligence of some notes of what might be in said tower and what might that have to do with anything else that's going on. Now, as far as responsibility towards fun, I do think that the GM holds a little bit heavier a weight in that department than the players. I think the players have to also be on the same page as the GM for you to have any fun at all. But it's kind of like the GM's the first person usually that talks at the beginning of a game. So depending on their attitude, their level of excitement in a way, that's going to set the tone for a lot of people at the table. And if you have, let's say, a referee that we get into a combat encounter, and the kind of referee that just is like, oh, I swung 3 times and I missed. All right, moving on, that kind of thing. I think that it's kind of up to them to throw a little pizzazz into it to mainly set the tone for the players of like, hey, we're here to have a fun experience. I'm sort of the one that all of you are looking at. It kind of reminds me of, like, it coming from the film world. I was always told, like, it really doesn't matter how good you are at something. If you're the guy that's an ass showing up to work every day, and you're short with everybody, you never talk to anybody there, they're not going to hire you. They're going to hire the guy that smiles at work every day, even though he just brings coffee to people. Same thing when it comes to tabletop role-playing games. If you're the kind of referee that's engaging with the players, they've put some thought into what they're running, even if it's not necessarily like a planned adventure, even if it's just an adventure area. Like, if I told you I was running the city of Zor in Barrows and Borderlands, you're going to be sure that I at least know where certain buildings are in the city or anything about it. Or if I was running Gods of Forbidden North, I would hope that I would have read the book,
which
before
you will be shortly.
Which I will be shortly. But yeah, so like, I have responsibility when it comes to setup and administration of the world in hopefully a narrative way.
Sure.
But that's sort of how I feel about it. I'm very, very against predetermination in games, mainly because it's too much work for me. I do think that, like, when writers are designing for a product, they have to put more into it. But
to clarify, when you say predetermination, you mean predetermined outcomes that you're trying to cause.
Yeah, ones that you're trying to hopefully.
Sure, I don't know that anybody would agree with that.
Yeah,
right.
But I mean, when I'm putting together an adventure, for example, I create a timeline of events as they would happen if the players don't get involved at various points. I still have a story that I'm telling, but the players have all the agency to affect that story by their actions and their choices. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about forcing players on this path. Although certain player agency mechanics do allow for that in certain situations, and I do support that. Like my fate points system in Ogres, and in the Unisystem, and in the old Mongoose Conan game, and all the games that use these player agency mechanics. Most of them have even D&D 5th edition have a mechanic by which you can award those mechanics to players in exchange for, as the DM, I kind of need this to happen. But you're not supposed to overuse it. You're not supposed to use it all the time as an excuse to force the players on a given path. So I think there's a middle ground there.
I do think there's a little bit of middle ground. And to clarify my point for Eclectic Goat, I wasn't saying the players didn't have any responsibility. I just was saying.
Hey, by the way, Eclectic Goat, I'm glad to see you here. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
I've been on her stream.
Oh, very cool. I need to go back and watch that episode then. I My point was mainly that the GM is usually the first person to talk, and they're usually doing, I'd say, majority of the talking. Even if they're letting their players take over a lot, they're still like answering the questions for every person at the table. So if they don't have a good attitude about themselves, or they don't really seem excited to be there, how could you expect a player to be, who's kind of waiting their turns a lot of the time and stuff like that?
I feel like the way I would put it, as far as the weight of the responsibility between the GM and the players for having a good time, the GM is kind of, by the nature of their role, the master of ceremonies, which means that, okay, when I said that it's their job to make sure everyone has a good time, that's overstating things a little much. But the GM has to foster an environment whereby people can have a good time. The GM is the one that has to deal with player conflicts at the table. The GM is the one that has to deal with making sure that everybody's on the same page for the game that they want to play. The GM has to set the guidelines for character creation and how the characters know each other. So I think, yes, the GM does shoulder a little more of the responsibility for fostering a good time than the players do. But yes, everyone has that responsibility. We have a player in my group who is not really young. I don't want to say younger. He is younger than most of us, but he is a newer player. And he's kind of learning to play through us and through some other games that other groups that he's in. But I just completely lost my train of thought because I got distracted.
Is it because I popped up the
we were explaining to him the other day the idea of how just because your character would do this doesn't necessarily mean you as a player should have your character do this. There is a point where limited metagaming is not only okay, but vital to making sure that everybody at the table has a good time. Okay, believably, my player or my character, given his background and disposition, would take this action. But if I have him take this action, it's going to blow up the table, and everybody's going to get pissed at each other, and everybody's going to fight.
So you're talking about like the rogue who robs his own party.
Yeah. Or the rogue who just randomly starts busting out windows to steal necklaces while the party's engaged in something else, just because, well, I'm a rogue and I would do that.
Well, I mean, that's right. That's something where you got to tell the player, well, real thieves don't just go door to door in broad daylight and throw rocks at windows. I mean,
or the assassin who openly murders a prisoner right in front of the paladin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that should be against what an assassin wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean?
Depends on your assassin.
No, right. I get it. No, I get it. Right. Yeah. Yeah. If that guy's on a list and there's,
there are times when the players have to take an action as a player for the good of the game that maybe might not be exactly what their character might do in that given instance.
Yeah.
It's where the game and the story intersect.
I think one of the things that really helps with that dynamic is when the player characters feel like they're in danger or feel pressured by the environment or the situation or even just the villains they're facing, that will tend to help foster cooperation. Sometimes game mechanics can as well, like the ability to counter a spell, for example, can be really powerful for a wizard who's trying to protect the party against certain opponents, or the ability to cover one of your allies with your shield to stop an attack, or that sort of thing. That can help foster teamwork as well. But I think when the players are not sure that they can win every fight, which is a problem with some of the newer role-playing games, but was not typically a problem with older
D&D 5.
Yep. When you're not sure you can win every fight, you are much more incentivized to actively cooperate and choose to not screw over your own allies,
right?
And actively assist them. And it's been cool to see that in even people who'd never met before, either in person or at all. When they're jumping into a game with me, afterwards, seeing them often choose to give each other treasure based on what the character's role is in the game, even though it's not like benefiting them personally, but they've by that point, by having played a session or two, they've realized, oh, I really do need this guy to be as effective as possible, or we're all going to die.
Like using D&D again is another example. Like, who doesn't want Elvenkind, right? Everybody wants the boots and cloak of Elvenkind, but when they come up, you got to give them to the thief.
Yeah,
you know, like.
Yeah.
Well, see, I have. I'm a little spoiled when it comes to some of those things because of the way that, or the nature of my home campaign runs, is that the players they have like suites of characters. So the thieves that like to do really horrible thieving stuff usually just party with other thieves that want to do horrible thieving stuff for those kind of adventures, and so they'll party up their suite of characters.
People here.
Losing us, or
I think the Wi-Fi is not great at the hotel.
Oh boy,
it never is. But you know, and then in addition to that, stuff like items coming up in game, I've kind of implemented a little bit of a, I don't want to call it a meta rule, but we usually run a caller in our game, and usually when magic items are found by the party, we just kind of have an agreement that all those items go to the caller, and then you guys figure that out at the end of the session, unless there's something pertinent that needs to be used right now, like a sword of smiting the boss in the next room, you know. But
we have a similar thing where we don't have it, we don't call it a caller, but there's usually somebody that keeps track of party treasure, and then the party
like
treasure
a designated person for it. Yeah. And that usually stops most of the arguments, because and I kind of, because I don't set that as like a rule of the table, but usually I talk to the table beforehand. I say, normally when we play, one of the guys takes all the loot and then divvies it at the end based on what y'all want. So if y'all want, we can kind of keep that agreement amongst each other. And it's definitely stopped some moments of somebody being like, oh, I'm gonna run up and grab that. It also stops players from running up and touching stuff super fast, because they're like, well, if whatever we find,
I don't know
if
you want to stop that, Matt.
hey, it stops them from running and grabbing it. It doesn't stop the party from not looking for traps. So I've had players go and like the Dungeon of the Fell Lord, for example, which is notorious for having traps all over the place, and they just continuously grab door handles.
Sure, but I don't know if you want to stop them from running and grabbing treasure either, because you might have a cursed item in there that could really piss somebody up.
Yeah, really.
Grab it.
Then they can't get rid of it. They pick up that -2 sword, and you know they can't put it down, or they keep drawing it. Oh my god!
Something that just occurred to me, and I think it comes down to just general GMing style. So I think what Matt was talking about earlier about his style of GMing is you run a sandbox game, right?
Yes.
Where you have a big open world and people just explore that world, and you keep notes about what is everywhere in the world, and and you go from there. I tend to run episodes in series. I run my game like a TV show, or comic books, or a series of novels, or what have you. So I have an overarching plot outline with a big bad and the big bad's plan, and it goes in episodes. And some of those episodes might be Monster of the Week. Some of those episodes might be, intensely tied to the overall plot arc. Some of those episodes might be a mix of the two. And it's just it's a different style of GMing, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely quite different, because whenever it's a different kind of note taking that you do before and after a session. Like for me, my notes are all about locations and people living in those locations. And I usually start at this, for me, I start at the big macro, and I have single sentence notes about locations. And then as I get closer to where the players are, they get deeper and longer, and some of them turn into books. But
that's too much.
That's for me. The reason I go that far is because writing that stuff is part of the hobby for me. I know a lot of people that want to run sandboxes but don't like all that writing stuff. They get stuff like Sandbox Generator, or like the big random tables and stuff that they can pull out at any given moment. if that's what they're going for. But I never found a set of random tables that really fit what I was trying to make in a location. So necessity.
Right.
And then most of my notes come after a session's over, and I'm writing down what they've done or what sort of things maybe came up in the game that I had not written down before, but they made sense in the moment, or like improvisational things that came up in the game.
Sure.
I'll take those notes down and then
Now,
add them to my ledger of the world.
Now, see, I do that as well, though, because I'm still world building, even as I'm running these episodic, episodes and series adventures. I still have NPCs that come up that might come back again, so I have to keep detailed notes of them and where they live and who they are, and changes that the players make in the world through their actions have to be tracked and recorded. So there's still a world building going on, and it's still the same types of notes. I think it's just a different approach.
I definitely do have NPC notes that I keep for a while of, like, for example, Arthur William Black in our campaign. He's a big NPC. He makes choices with or without player character intervention, which sometimes can go to the deletion of a town or something like that because he's moved through the area. But I also have another benefit of the way I do my game in that a lot of those faction leaders or people that you would consider to be villains are ran by the players giving me orders. So I sort of offload some of that to them, where, like, let's say the Sorcerer King of Erden, who's making orcs or whatever, I'm getting like a couple sentences from him in a week saying, hey, I'm moving forces over here, or hey, those guys who keep going in the dungeon that I set up and it's really pissing me off, so I'm about to go send some more monsters to go restock it, or stuff like that. Or I'm going to go send assassins to hunt them down, which might come up in a game, stuff like that. But that's a level that the only reason I have that benefit is because of the amount of players taking over things.
Yeah, and so and running in these different styles can also be related to the genre you're playing in. For example, when I run medieval genre, typically I'm running a lot closer to what Matt's describing, although I do use procedural generation as well as fixed points, like Roger and I
use some.
Like Arbiter of Worlds suggests, although not to that degree. He's a little overkill, but his general idea is a good one. But also, if I'm doing something more like a nautical campaign, or if I'm doing something like space exploration, then a more episodic type of structure for the game is appropriate, because you do tend to have these long breaks in time between interesting events. And that's just because of the nature of the genre of what you're doing. And the same is true for, like, if I was doing a modern city adventure where you're playing a bunch of detectives in a modern city, say, trying to hunt down mysterious villains, I would probably run that more episodic initially, and then as the players got deeper into the world, or as the playgroup grew, I would then start introducing more of the elements that you're describing.
Yeah, I can definitely see that different genres calling for different types of play, because you're right. I probably would not do this big sandbox style thing in like if I was running I don't know, a Delta Green investigation or something.
Right.
But if I was doing space or stuff like that, I have ran different types of, like, sci-fi space adventures, or different types of, like, seafaring piratey adventures, where I've done a little bit of both, where I've done more of the episodic stuff because of those long breaks, and then other times I wanted it to still be sandbox, but so I made it was, they would pick a location, and then we would have time skipping between those locations after they've said, like, oh, we're sailing towards that island. I'd make a couple rolls for encounters or whatever, and then the in-betweens would get skipped depending on the group.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do it as much anymore. Like it's definitely with the campaign I'm running now, it's weird in that I can't have those sort of jumps when there are multiple people running in it, sort of like an MMO, because now the other people are like, well, they've jumped ahead and done this or so and so, and so they're sort of playing like time catch up. But
Right.
I also
you're
run
in that
other
fixed time thing, which is
one
definitely like the way that you sort of have to do it that way, though, with the way that
because
you're running it,
yeah.
having all of those people. If you're running a group of 5 people, you can week after week, then yeah, you can easily just say, oh, okay, between this Saturday and next Saturday, okay, 6 weeks passed, or whatever, or this
Yeah.
you could do that. But yeah, when there's other GMs and other games and everything needs to progress along a timeline, you can't get that far ahead.
Yeah, I tend to have multiple groups in the same setting, and so I'm usually to some extent bound by the time as well. But one of the solutions to that is I tend to have a significant amount of time for the genre go by between sessions. So I might have 3 months go by in the game world between week to week in real life, and that allows me some flexibility when it comes to, hey, we had to travel for 2 months to get to this place.
We had I like to play with time scales a lot when we jump worlds and do different settings. We were doing like a Viking game, and I did 1 month per week, so 1 month in game for 1 week in the real world, and then with the base game I just do 1-to-1 because it's just a little easier. And then if players go over that time, then I just say, okay, those guys are kind of like retired for a moment until somebody catches up to that. Like, let's say you go 3 weeks in the future, and I'm like, okay, you're paused until we catch up. Go play a different character, join a different referee's game tonight, or something like that, or just roll up somebody new to join. While we're not running that right now.
How'd that go for your Viking game?
It went pretty good for the Viking game. I like tying whenever I run those sort of sandbox stuff. I like tying it to some sort of time scale. I'm not necessarily ascribed to like it has to be tied to the real world time. I just find that being a little easier for my note keeping. Whatever scale I do, whether it's 1 month to a week or week for a week or whatever else it is. I've also I don't run it day for day usually. I do week for week because
right.
If I'm not expecting you to get your orders in by midnight tonight, it's like, if you could send me a text sometime this week, even if it's just, rook to e5 or something, I move my guys that way. By the end of the week is good. It counts for anywhere in that time. But
yeah, I try and run like 1-to-1 even with my weekly group. And it gets a little off. So I've kind of doing, I don't know, a different thing that's a little weird, but I kind of do like a week for a week. But also if we play on Sunday and they go out for, say 11 days, right? They travel for 4 days and then are somewhere for a few days and then travel back 4 days, and it's 11 days total. The next week I'll pick up, but I'll just consider it that day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's 11 days, only a week will have passed.
I do.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Which is a little weird,
do.
But
time is really nebulous in my games. Like my long-running Buffy the Vampire Slayer game, the way my Sunday gaming group works now, it could be a couple years between my turn as a GM to run that game. So my players are always like, well, how long has it been, since the last time we played? And usually I'll be like, there's been a couple months downtime, but it's still going to be October 2026, even though it was 2024 last time we played. It just keeps it easy to, it's now, but in game it's just assume it's been a couple months. Because it just makes it easier to reference but again, that's a game that's set in a version of the real world. So with the supernatural. So it just makes it easier to have that point of reference. People don't have to go, well, what was going on in 2024 at this point in time? They just go with what's going on, So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I definitely, I've had talks about it with folks like Karon and Ultra American TTRPG, or see him in chat too. But I've talked with them a bit about how different genres need different things, or even not even different genres all the time. Because you could do like, okay, for example, if I was going to run like Pendragon, which uses a lot of that seasonal gameplay, or Ars Magica with the seasonal play with that one. I'd probably mix up the scale or run it a bit different. Definitely, if I was running modern, our world, I think, the easiest thing is just to say it's today time. It's whatever time of year it is right now, unless for some reason I really wanted to run a Christmas adventure in July. But
I mean, Christmas in July, it's a thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a real thing. Time is definitely interesting. And Matt, you touched on a couple things earlier with I know you do a lot of like domain play and all of that. You didn't call it outright that, but I mean that's basically what it is, right?
Yeah, a lot of domain and patron
and
play.
That's kind of good, I think, because it takes a lot off the GM's plate to say, hey, this is what is going on with these people over there. Like, it allows you to have multiple factions and not have to actually track like all that stuff. I mean, I could track fairly well like a bunch of different evil factions or whatever doing their thing, but it's a lot easier when you can say, hey, there's 20 factions out here, and half of them somebody emails in once a week and says, here's what it's doing.
Well, there's definitely,
and then it's not your fault.
Well, yeah. Well, I know, like, there's another point that too, where if a player, let's say, is running a very major faction and they are slow to send orders or whatever, that winds up hurting that faction a little bit. And I chalk it up in game to being, well, that nation's ruler must be quite lazy, or it could, because sometimes the rulers are also bad at making quick decisions. But usually it works out pretty good. I definitely have some of the NPCs in the world that I don't want players running, mainly because I want to run them, it's fun.
Yeah.
Those are my chance to run them. But others where it's like for example, there's the Empire of Malorez in our campaign, and they're like a pseudo Roman Empire with guns, and occasionally I was going through and trying to figure out where their military was marching, or I need to figure out if there's any sort of new happenings, like is the emperor getting sick or stuff like that. I put that one off on a player because they're not trying to necessarily hinder the other parties in the group, but based on their decisions with the other nations, that's where things can get interesting. So if I have two different brains running two of the nations, well, then they might actually come to a conflict on their own,
right?
Versus me having to sit there and think about why they're mad at each other. It's like,
well, especially if you throw something out there, you
exactly.
say, hey, look, there's the magic MacGuffin stone that's like equally, right on the border or something, and your ancestors say that it's, on your side of the line, and and then you tell the other guy the same thing.
Well, I've had players in game set up. One of them was running a big sorcerer prince guy, and he was on this huge council and this mageocracy in the world, and he was hunting down another player who had broken the law of necromancy, and they were trying to get him arrested and all this other stuff. And man, it wound up being very narrative. There was this huge moment where they confronted each other. One of them had an army marching on him, and then the other player decided, the whole time he's never submitted anybody. He's always just kind of like that guy that's like, I shoot first. Well, he submitted to this guy, and now he's going to go to trial. It's way better than anything I could have come up with in the moment, just because it was actually this conflict between two people. And now we're going to be planning like a almost like a Stein style game where they have their little wizard trial for him to see if he's going to go get sent to the island of the dead or get executed or whatever else it is. Yeah, Baron Carthy.
Yeah,
I starfall everyone. But yeah, Baron's a good example. And he ran one where in one of our games he was maintaining the Pope. And the Pope had this dark secret. He was trying to create these reliquary knights, these undead warriors. And there's this imperial election that was happening to find out which player was going to get to play the emperor, because the old one had died. Well, Baron comes out there all evil at the end, and he casts death on everybody. Everybody makes their, out of nowhere, everybody in the party is like, what's going on? And I'm sitting over here going, oh man, that might have just killed every potential emperor in the room. One person made their saving throw, dropped down, and then pulled out and shot and got the Pope in a single hit. It was an awesome moment, but they were all faction head leaders that were there in the room. And then that player that won, he picked up the crown even though he lost the election. There was no witnesses in the room. Puts on the crown. He says, "I won the election, and then I had to take out the Pope, so I'm the emperor now." But yeah, but he's illegitimate. Crazy. Because he didn't actually win the election. There were no witnesses to know that he was the only survivor.
Huh. Crazy. Yeah, you don't get that the sort of stuff that's like, that's something that players will come up with. They come up with crazy things like that. That'll happen. Not that the GMs aren't creative enough or whatever, but there's always some other thing that's going on that the players will think of that the GM won't.
Well, that lends itself to the player responsibility too, because if the players aren't interested in what you're running, it could be your fault that what you're running isn't interesting, but also there's a little bit of buy-in. If I sit there and
not me.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, if I go, hey guys, I want to run a whole campaign of Dropship, and we're doing military sci-fi, and I've got all the guys together, and then the first session, after everybody's agreed to play with me, one guy goes, I hate sci-fi. It's like, well, what are you doing here? Like, what's...
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about how everybody shares the responsibility. Like, I had a player in one of my games who, again, we talked about the player agency mechanics that we use. He actually spent a player agency point, a drama point in my Buffy game, specifically to make his character and what was happening to his character the focus of the next season. And all he did on Farah was that he was getting taken to task all season the next season. I'm like, you chose it. Like, it was your choice. Like, so that's where, think about what you're doing and understand that everybody bears some responsibility there.
There was a good topic brought up earlier. I was watching Fox Off RPG and Rob from Pulpumic talk, and they were talking about just his design choices in the games, and it kind of made me think about, like, there's GM responsibility, and we may run our games a certain way, but when it comes to designing the adventure modules that other people are meant to buy, there's almost a different, like, for example, I might run most of my games off the dome based on the facts of the world there, and but if I had, say, this evil NPC in a room, whenever I'm designing that room, I might add something saying, if he speaks to the player characters, this is be his reaction or something like that, or like, here's how he would react to certain situations. As where when I'm just running it at home, I would never have those notes right in front of me just because I know how that NPC is running. But I think GMs in a lot of ways become designers of their own games. So it's a hard balance between how much of pre-planning do I have to do for them versus how much do they need to do whenever they're planning to come in to play my game? Because you bring up player responsibility. Is it their responsibility then to like learn about your world before play, or
well, I mean, yeah,
to an extent, yeah, but some
like
of that,
learn the rules, learn a little bit, learn the at least. I mean, if you're going to give that to them, I mean, if you're going to make it difficult for them to get, then then no, it's not on them. Then it's on you. But I mean, they should learn how to play the game, or at least attempt to get a book, or
And when it comes to like setting information, there are ways to present or embed that in adventures, in character classes or careers, in some of the like species or some of the race choices you can make. It's very doable to break up quite a lot of setting information into digestible content that players, not just the game master, but that players will pick up very quickly. Not every game does this, but it can be done, because basically humans remember about 4 or 5 things of a given category easily, and after that it just kind of washes over them unless they make a real effort to learn it. Well, if you do your setting design that way, it will really help a game master learn and retain it. For example, if you have 3 to 5 continents on your world, right? And if the main continent that your adventure is focused on has like 5 significant nations, this is an amount of information that is learnable quickly. And the same is true for the players. As soon as they figure out what nation they're from, now all they have to know is, well, what are the other ones that are near us? And they have a bunch of setting information right there. And what are they like? Maybe a line or two. That is definitely something I think that's worth doing when you design RPGs, especially because it makes the game master's job much easier. Instead of one continent with 500 countries, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, I like to embed some of that in the room design, item design, or like little flavor bits. I love putting a mural here and there in a wall in a dungeon, but mainly because like it almost feels like if y'all ever played any like the Dark Souls games or Elden Ring and stuff like that, where you'd find some random knife and it would
Unfortunately, I have, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you
can't get those hours back.
Oh, I love those games. But you would find some little item and it would have a little bit of lore tied to it, but it'd be brief enough that you wouldn't mind just looking at it for a second. I do that a lot in my games because I've realized that try as I might, I definitely have the players that do get super into it and they want to read the lore, they really want to get into the setting. But then there are others where they just want to show up on a Saturday afternoon as man with sword and figure it out as they go. And so I sprinkle that in a little bit for them too, because it's like, well, okay, yes, at least know what the country's called. But then if you found this dagger that you think's really cool and it's from the Mages of Erendur or something, you're gonna like want to know a little bit more about that and maybe get curious, and that might also be a good adventure hook.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get into the whole Souls thing, so I won't. But but I just think if you ran an RPG like a Souls game, your players would riot.
Ran it like that's a different story. But
so that's why that's why I can't play the video game.
The way that they embedded things. Now, I am a little notorious from having really scary monsters all over the place that are quite hard. But oh well, they just have to.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right. Well, you guys walked. It was a walk through the park.
I've successfully orchestrated the death of a vampire lord, in every game that I've played with you.
That is true. That is true. You did turn into a white in the last one.
No, yeah, but see,
Dracula's base.
Right, I turned into a white, and started killing other players. And that made the mage go crazy and had to try every single fire spell. So his last resort before we all killed him was to cast Volcano inside the spaceship. So I mean that was me, because if I didn't attack, if I was a nice white, then
I kind of feel like after that I just have to reference vampires in everything I write in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just on one of the walls there's a poster of Dracula, and then because every game I've played with Roger has been vampire themed.
It's been two, but yeah, I mean, and I mean the Dracula or the vampire one that we just did. I can't take any credit for that. I think I hit him once. I took like 20 swings and shots.
Rolling
and just,
2, 4, 3, 2.
Missed like point blank shots with rifles and pistols and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Where do you guys think, like system wise, do you think, like, I know that you guys run mostly, your own systems at this point, because of play testing and, you're promoting your own thing and all of that. But like, if you had a group of players that really wanted to play a system that you weren't into, how would you guys feel about that? Would you say, no, that's, push it to somebody else? Or would you say,
probably
okay,
push
I'll
it.
try it?
Yeah, I would probably push it to somebody else because if it's not a system I'm interested in running, I'm not going to have a good time running it, and it's going to show, and it's going to affect the table.
Yeah.
I have specific types of games that I run, systems and styles of systems specifically that work with that style of play. And I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to talk crap on somebody else's game. The last time I tried to do this with my group was we ran the official Terminator role-playing game because I have a guy in my group who is a just obsessive Terminator fan.
The new one?
And the game was, and it's freaking terrible.
The
game is awful. The rule system.
Is it the same system
crap.
that they used with Slay? It's multiple D10s and only one of them counts?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It just, the same guy that is the huge Terminator fan built an archetype that they push in the rules that they set up for you to rush, which is like a support fire character that lays down suppressing fire, to provide cover. The problem is it's a freaking Terminator game set in the war in the future, right? Terminators walk through. So his character was completely worthless. And just, I don't know. The whole time we were playing, everybody just kept saying to me, the stats and skills in this use the same scale as Unisystem. Why don't we just convert this over to Unisystem and play that? So, yeah, that's it. Yep, I sold the whole line to half price books.
Yeah.
So yeah, but anyways, it comes back to the idea of like running a system that you're not really into. Would you? I have tried it and it did not work.
Yeah.
So it depends on the system. If it's one I'm already familiar with, I might do it, but I would be much more inclined to encourage the player who is that excited about it to run it themselves.
Yeah.
I already have this planned. If I have to run, if some of my old high school friends wanted me to run 5e and they just begged and begged and begged, I have this whole thing planned out. Yeah, sure, we can run it, but we're just gonna get rid of all the optional rules, and then I'm gonna mess with the modifiers a little bit. And the next thing you know, they're playing BX and they just didn't know that that's what they signed up for. But I'll call it 5e for them. But it does depend on the system. Like, if it's one I have never tried, maybe, okay, maybe I'll give it a chance. I just thought maybe I wasn't going to. But if it's one that I've tried and didn't like, I'd probably offload that to somebody that did like it, because maybe I'd at least enjoy playing in it.
Right.
But yeah, there are definitely some systems I did not enjoy running. Usually it's the ones that are more crunchy unnecessarily. game.
Yeah.
You know, like I can enjoy a little bit of crunch in a game sometimes. I even I like Axe. I like uh, um, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'll remember it later. But then there are some where it's like, oh, here's this. It takes you half an hour to resolve some sort of social interaction for some reason through like 10 different dice rolls. No, you've lost me on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, X has a different kind of crunch though, because it's BX at its core, really.
Yeah, it's like a domain crunch.
Yeah, the
I'm not
crunch
familiar with
is in
that
a
game.
good
It's
spot.
Alexander McCrease. It's Axe 2,
Adventure Conqueror King system.
Oh, Adventure Conqueror King.
Adventure
Okay,
Conqueror.
Yeah.
But
everybody has to shorten everything now. Game names are too long for people.
We were telling him how
he calls it that.
So, I know.
we were telling him at one of the conventions about how, man, I love using the Axe stuff in our home campaign because it works. A lot of that domain stuff works really good in what I do. And we were telling him about it, and he goes, everybody likes to use my game. Nobody likes to play my game. It's like, well, that's kind of what you get making a domain simulator. So
yeah, it's interesting. For me, if you guys want to hear it, I would run a game, and I have run games that I don't want to run. They're just, if they're close enough to games that I'm okay with running, I have no problem, playing them or running them. Like if my group if I had a group that really wanted to play 5e, I might consider it depending on the group and the setting. If they wanted to play 5.5, like I'm definitely out. Like like that for me would be like a huge line. Even 5th edition would be like, I would really need to be in a spot, to run.
I don't know. I mean, I've played, and again, this is going to come into whether we like 5e or not. But I've played and run and had a great time with 5e. I have issues with Wizards of the Coast at this point.
Yeah, me too. Sure.
The game itself, 5.5, I could just boot over the cliff. Everything, all the changes they made in 5.5, I think sucked.
For me, 5e is just too much. There's just too much in it that slow the game down.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you need a full page stat block for every monster, like character write up for every monster, is ridiculous. But again, once you get used to it, I find it easy enough and fast enough to run. I really like the way in 5e the character class abilities work in conjunction with each other. Like they really work. If you have smart players, your character class abilities will work to foster good teamwork among the players in given scenarios. We found that in our group, and I don't know. I have nothing against the game. I think the game is very well designed. Again, this is 5.0, not 5.5. But I just will not support Wizards of the Coast at this point in time. I just won't.
Well, I started with 5th edition whenever I started playing, so that's what we played for years, because it had just come out whenever I started, and we were like, oh, let's go buy whatever we want to buy. Dungeons and Dragons, that's the one that's on sale. So, and like for me though, it was always in the way of the style of play that we wanted to do, and that was mainly just our group. I have had good times playing it, but every time we've had good times playing it is because we've changed something about it for whatever adventure we were running. And it was really funny when like Shadow Dark, for example, came out, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably what I would have done to 5e by the time we got done with it at our table. But recently we had one of my buddies, it was his birthday, my hometown, and he still plays 5e, the 2014 5e. And we went over and we rolled up characters, and I was hopping in to play with him. He was running it. And I just was like, man, first of all, it took me forever to make my character, but then we got into one little encounter with like a group of undead, and we were sitting there for like an hour, and I was just, all of it was reminding me why I was playing older school games now because it's just like I don't have time for 5e anymore.
Yeah.
I usually only have 2 to 3 hours to sit down and play a game at most. Sometimes I have like an hour and a half to get a little bit of gaming.
And yet 5e plays so much faster than 3.x ever did, especially if you used miniatures. If you were using miniatures and all the tactical combat rules in 3.x, combat would take hours.
I actually never played 3rd edition. Well, I say that. I did try Pathfinder, which people have told me is basically the same thing.
Close.
I've just never
not the current version of Pathfinder.
No,
but
the
current
Pathfinder one, the first one,
Right. Yeah. But I've never like pulled out 3rd edition books and played with those.
I ran a lot of 3.5 and we did miniature combat for a while, and the higher the level we got, the way more complicated it got. And that's when I stopped with that and did Theater of the Mind, and it sped it up.
Yeah.
I think for me, 3rd edition and 3.5 played faster in general than 5e, but not at every character level. There is a period in 5th edition where it's more efficient, I would say. But but I ran 3.5 quite a bit, and I think the highest level party I was ever running for, and this was for a 2-year campaign, was 35th to 42nd level, and that was busy. It certainly made preparing challenges interesting. But
what game was that again?
3.5 D&D.
You ran 35th level characters in 3.5?
That was the lowest level PC.
Good Lord.
At that point in the campaign.
That's hilarious. Yeah, no, I usually like my games to be complicated in the areas that are fun to be complicated in. But when it's combat, I definitely like it to be faster because then it actually feels a little bit like combat in some way. I like my war games like that too, because that's why Chainmail is still my favorite war game, because it's very quick.
Yeah, well, there's not much to it, right? And that makes it easy. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
it's fast. Yeah. It's not the best combat simulator of realistic results.
Right, but when you've got 2,000 man armies, and you need to adjudicate a battle that's not going to take an entire weekend, to do it, it works.
Yeah, I mean that's why we use it for a lot for the mass combat in our campaign, because it's like usually the battles are in between things going on, and it's like either I could use the battle calculator from like Beckme or something, or we could play this out. And usually I run them as little events too, like if the Maloresians encounter the Urdish people and there's like a battle that might happen based on what we've rolled, then I might hit up the server and say, hey, got a battle, who wants to pick sides and play it out.
That would kind of be like my goal, like someday, like that's what I want to do, is if I ever got to a point in a game where there was like a huge battle between two players' armies or anything like that, I would have the players controlling those sides to basically write out their orders, on like a sheet of paper or something. And then I would take those orders and give them to like 2 people that want to run a war game. Find a YouTube channel that wants to run a war game or whatever, and just give them, each a list of troops and the orders, and then have the players, sit back and, watch what they told their generals, happen or whatever,
It's pretty fun. I enjoy doing it. It still never beats the in-person wargaming too, of even doing written orders with the in-person can be a lot of fun. But I know we're nearing, but I had another question to throw in here, because we're talking about GM responsibility too, and I'm just curious.
This will probably be the last question.
I know. Do it. I'm just curious. Have any of y'all ever thrown somebody out of your table? Like, have you ever had a player that messed up so much that you had to use your GM card and tell them they couldn't play anymore?
Of course.
We've never actually kicked somebody out. We've had it out with a guy that created a problem, like really, really had it out with him. And he actually got better after. And actually, we had a guy who his GM, I don't want to say he's a bad GM, but his GM style was so, what's the word? Anathemic, is that a word? To our play style that he's not allowed to run for the group anymore. He still plays in the group, but we don't let him run anymore.
I've played with a lot of people over the years, and still, I probably play with about, I don't know, Roger, maybe 100 unique individuals each year, and
wow.
As a result, I don't know if you're similar, because you're at a lot of conventions as well. I've definitely had to kick people out, especially for longer term groups. Rarely at a convention. Usually people there want to play and don't want to get kicked out. But occasionally you'll have players who are disruptive or doing things that are inappropriate. And if they won't cut it out, kick them out.
I don't think at any con game I don't think I've seen anybody that's gotten like that bad where they've been kicked out of a game, that I've been in or ran or anything like that. In our home game, I've had some arguments with players, going back, several years ago, but that's because we were, just dumb kids, you know what I mean? Like whatever, you get into an argument. But more recently we had to ask somebody not to come back. And it was sort of a mutual decision, but because he kept pushing that in conversation, like, oh, if you don't want me here, just say it, because I would have to kind of talk through some stuff with him. And he was okay. And then over a couple of years, like I think he was, his meds changed or something. And he just wasn't, I don't know. He was a good kid. I just, I don't know, would get more and more combative and just was frustrating a lot of the group. And I tried to talk to him, and as soon as you try to talk to him, he would just lose his mind over stuff. And if you want me to leave, I'll leave. Just tell me. And, and I would say, well, maybe it's a good idea if you think that's the best, thing or whatever. And, and he would never do it. And then eventually it got to the point where I was like, look, man, I'm sorry, but this isn't working out. We can't do this. And I don't want to get into a ton of details, but he would show up late all the time and act like it was our problem that, he didn't have time to roll up a new character or whatever. And he had to use an existing character of his and like all that. I mean, it was like 45 minutes late, like all the time. It wasn't like 10 minutes.
Have you considered locking the door?
Yeah, right.
You know what?
But that was the last straw. The last time he showed up 45 minutes late and complained that I wouldn't let him create a new character. Like we were already going, and he was like, I don't want to move this character from this city because then she's going to be stuck over here. And I was like, look, I'll put her back over there. It's fine, whatever. And he was just completely upset about that.
I did once, come to think of it, sit down with a friend of mine in a group, and it wasn't we don't want you to play anymore. It was you are clearly not having fun the way this game is going, and it's kind of affecting everybody else at the table too. So while you're always still welcome here, you might want to think about maybe not playing because you're just not having a good time. And he did eventually end up stepping down. So I don't know if that counts as kicking somebody off the table, but we didn't actually tell him you're not allowed to come back. I just kind of suggested to him, it's clear you're not having a good time. So why continue?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of close. I mean, yeah. So, yeah. Well, it's about 8:30. What are you guys? Guys, good here? You guys got any other points you want to make?
I think I'm good. I ran here because I forgot the time jump, so I was frazzled when I jumped on.
So maybe we should recap. So the plan is to meet on the 29th at 7 p.m.
Yes.
Right?
And I will be home, and there won't be a time jump, so I will be there. Yeah.
He'll be an hour early.
Yeah, I'll be an hour early. Yeah, if my clocks don't get sent back.
Right. Yeah, no, I was sitting over
That's
here.
okay. We're
all
not going to have
day.
to worry about that. The thing's going to pass, and we're going to be in perpetual standard time or whatever.
Yeah, I was sitting over here all day in my head going 7:30. Yeah. I don't need to check. I'm infallible. I will know for sure. Yeah, no, I was wrong.
You young people always think that you're
You young people.
Hey, listen, not to say I'm a Luddite, but I don't check my phone very often. But
oh boy. Well, I mean, you're better than most, I guess. On that note, join us in 2 weeks where we don't know what we're going to talk about yet, or at least I haven't been informed. So we'll figure that out. Maybe we'll talk about that in the backstage in a minute and figure that out.
Sounds good.
But hey, thanks everybody for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to all of our channels. Check out all our websites. Well, their websites. Go buy their stuff.
Games.
Absolutely, buy their games. They're all fantastic games, and yeah, it's all good stuff. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. What time, Jason?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. There you go.
7
Eastern.
o'clock Eastern time.
On the 29th.
What time, Matt?
8:30. No, 7 o'clock. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Eastern, right? Eastern? Yeah.
Eastern.
Okay.
Eastern.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you, everybody.
Take it easy.